Welcome back. Thank you for giving us your time today. My name is Nicholas McDonald. I am a project and business development engineer for AQUALIS Engineering Service Division. You'll also hear from my colleague Kevin Hopkins today, who is a project engineer with AQUALIS. And we're going to be talking about the sort of process of stormwater management inspection, maintenance, and reporting. And we're going to be speaking from the perspective of a consultant, in our case, an engineering and maintenance consultant that can help with this process, whether you are a municipality, you are a private landowner, or really anywhere in between that you fit into this process. Just talk a little bit about how we can help. So moving into the presentation, we first just want to talk about kind of what this full process is from our perspective and what are the components. So we're going to start out with the inspection piece. So what we're after are documentation of the current conditions of stormwater management practices or facilities on a site that has a previously approved stormwater management plan, permit, or agreement. And I use those three terms sort of interchangeably because they are the common practices that we see municipalities use to kind of deliver these programs, and they'll be the basis for an inspection and any maintenance requirements. So those are really the documents that we are using as consultants. And so through the inspection, we want to verify that the site's drainage facilities are functioning as they were designed. And, we can do that a number of ways. In green infrastructure, we're going to be looking at, what's out there for vegetation versus the original planting and vegetation plan. We might be looking at infiltration rates if we're talking about a permeable system or a biofiltration system. And then, for green or gray infrastructure as well, we're checking capacity and conveyance. So we just want to make sure that as the design was approved, that is the way that the device is current. And then another thing or another, piece that AQUALIS can help with is actually performing the maintenance and repair as needed. And we can also help, not listed on this slide, with a redesign. So if it gets to the point where you're looking at a full reconstruction or your system, either is not performing the way it should due to upstream, the land usage upstream has changed, or design practices since the original design have been updated and improved. So we might be at that point where we're looking at a full redesign or reconstruction. Again, we want to keep up with recurring maintenance and regularly scheduled maintenance so that we hopefully avoid that scenario. But if we get there, it's something that AQUALIS can help with. And so now moving into sort of the reporting aspect of this process, we see varying requirements from different communities, as we heard from the municipalities earlier and from WDNR. There's sort of one blanket minimum requirement that's going to come from the state or the national level, and then communities have a little bit of leeway to determine how they want to develop and enforce that program. And so some just common examples that we see really across the nation are going to be the Stormwater Management Practice Maintenance Agreement. So that is that binding agreement that we talked about between the municipality and the landowner of the private BMP. And that agreement is going to detail what the maintenance requirements are and if there's any guidelines for inspection. So that's sort of the baseline, what really most municipalities are going to be required to do is have that maintenance agreement. And then to take it a step further, some other examples that we see are like a recertification of a stormwater management plan. So that is a plan that's originally submitted with design, and it's a very robust recertification program. So you're actually using the original design plans to verify the function of the current condition. So it's a program that we see in the city of Milwaukee, and as consultants, we really appreciate more developed and robust programs like this because they just give us more groundwork and a better basis to perform our work. So just a good example of how you can take that program a step further. And then also we see a permit renewal or annual permit certification. I believe we might have heard that from the city of West Dallas. But that's just another route that a municipality can take. Again, it would be with the original stormwater permit that was approved during design. That is the document that is the basis for the recertification or the reporting in that instance. And so that is what, as a consultant, we're referencing. And that picture there is just a sample of the City of Milwaukee's Stormwater Management Plan application. So that is the document that we would be referencing for the City of Milwaukee. All right, so now we're going to talk about why this process is required, and sort of starting at the very top, even above like a state agency like WDNR, like we heard from earlier. But so the requirement comes from a national or state environmental agency with the permitting authority from the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. And they're going to issue MS4 permits to the facilities, municipalities, or communities that require them. So that can be anything from town, village, or city to even like a university or a school district. So there's a couple different types of permittees there. And so this MS4 permit that's issued is going to require a post-construction stormwater management ordinance, along with other things. So you'll have to develop, implement, and then enforce a full stormwater management program. Part of that program is the post-construction stormwater management ordinance that gives kind of the grounds for enforcement and lays out the rules for property owners and then also for the municipality. So these ordinances are available in model forms, both from state agencies and from national agencies like EPA. So you can look there as a municipality to get kind of a guideline for how to develop your ordinance, and also to see what some of the minimum requirements are from those agencies. So this ordinance, there's many sections that can be included in this ordinance, but kind of deep in there is going to be the requirement for a maintenance agreement and then some inspection and reporting guidelines. So that is going to be a requirement for development within the post-construction ordinance from a municipality. So that is where it is being required at a local level and then being enforced to the landowners. And this MS4 permittee, so the community in most cases, is going to implement and enforce the ordinance. As we've heard, that's sort of in early stages, and so communities are in the process of figuring out the best way to do that. And that's really where, AQUALIS can come in to help and make your life easier as you're trying to make sure that all of your publicly owned and operated BMPs are being maintained. Again, so that kind of goes through a lot of the red tape and the regulatory side of it, but really what we're trying to do, everyone involved, the goal is to reduce discharge of pollutants from the sewer systems, and we're doing that through long-term accountability. So, there's requirements obviously, and then there's the goal of what we're really trying to do, and that is keep our freshwater sources clean. And I think everyone can get on board with that, even the landowners. And another benefit that they'll see is just from the value of their property as they maintain these devices. An out of shape BMP is going to be worth a lot less if you are trying to sell the property or value the property. You want to make sure that all the assets that you have are in good shape so that you can maintain the value as best as possible. So that's just another reason that landowners should be interested and willing to comply with these requirements. So from consultants' perspective, we want to talk just a bit about when we are looking to act and help out with these programs. So like we heard from WDNR, most MS4 permittees are going to be required to inspect at least once per permit term. And as we heard, sometimes that 5-year cycle can be even a little bit long, especially for some green infrastructure BMPs. So that's why we see some municipalities moving towards annual requirements or just more frequent reporting cycles than those minimum requirements. And so, like if you look at EPA's documentation for their model ordinances and their guidelines, they recommend annual inspections. So you can really look to see, you know, what the highest authorities are saying about when these things should be done. And so from a consultant, we usually know when to step in to help either a municipality or a landowner if a notice has been sent to alert them that an inspection or maintenance may be required. And that again would be to help out just a private landowner. And if it was from a municipality's perspective, we would rely on them making the initial contact. And then after that, we can kind of take over their entire program to manage that schedule. And then another way that can kind of alert a consultant or a landowner about when they need to act is some municipalities will keep public records of the stormwater management plans, permits, or agreements that they have on file. So that's like we heard, it can sometimes be difficult to actually maintain those records once they've been originally created. They just get, you know, stored in the basement somewhere and lost. So this is just a good way, you know, right on your website or something that's public facing, kind of reminds you to keep it updated. So that's something that we see some municipalities do, and we think it's a good practice, something else that we appreciate from the consultant's perspective. So now just talking a little bit about the point of view of like a private landowner for one of these municipally operated BMPs that we might work with. So they're going to, as I said, receive some kind of notice or a letter from their municipality stating that they have a BMP, it requires inspection, and this bullet says professional inspection. That's, again, just another practice that we've seen in some of the more robust programs requiring professional inspection be done, since you'll usually get higher quality documentation, higher quality inspections if you're using a certified professional to perform. So that's why you see that there. And so in this scenario, with the letter that I have pulled up here, you won't be able to read it. The font's a little bit too small, but this landowner was notified of the required inspection. They were given a due date for when to comply, and then they were also asked to provide their records from the previous year. So that is probably an example of a municipality that was not on top of their reporting requirements the year before, or maybe they just have this is their cycle, you know, to collect every other year. So again, in this case, the landowner would have needed to maintain those records from the previous year and provide them in this case. And so this is just one example that we see of kind of this communication happening between a municipality and a landowner to actually implement this program and enforce the maintenance requirements. So that was the first example, and now the next notice that I have included here is from another municipality near Milwaukee, and this one goes into a bit more detail to describe the reasoning behind the inspection. So that's like we heard a little bit, or we heard a question about how municipalities are educating private landowners, and this is one way that actually in that communication or in that kind of stepped enforcement process that you can educate right in that letter that you're sending. And you can really include as much or as little detail as you feel is necessary. But that's just one route kind of that stepped enforcement and a way to include education within that. And so another attachment that was sent with this letter that I think should, be coming up there is the inspection checklists and requirements within that municipality. So we saw that the city of West Allis has a checklist like this. But again, as a consultant, we appreciate when documents like this are provided to a private landowner or when they're made available publicly so that we can access them easily. It just makes our lives easier, makes the landowners' lives easier if as much information as can be provided is provided. So that way we can save time, not have to dig through basement files or whatever route needs to be taken to access these documents. So good practice that we see is providing everything that really is needed for recertification along with that notice, or sorry, not recertification, but the inspection, the maintenance and reporting. to provide all the documentation that's needed for that process right along with any communication like this. So just click through the checklist there. And so from consultant's perspective, a property owner might reach out to us stating that they have received this notice and that they now are aware that they need to perform inspection maintenance. And that's where we could help out to provide these services. And if it's not coming from a landowner, it might be coming from a municipality where they're looking for our services for their entire system of BMPs. Okay, I just gotta click off of a message here. Okay, and I think that will be it for me. And so I'm gonna hand it over to Kevin here.
All right, thanks, Nick. So hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Hopkins. I'm a project engineer with AQUALIS. I'll be going through the typical inspection process and everything after we got in touch with the client. So first things first, we want to obtain the specific site information from the client or the municipality. This could either be a site plan, stormwater management plan, aerial imagery, or perhaps a topographic map. The photo we have on the screen is an example from a stormwater management plan that lists all the different requirements that the property owner is supposed to be doing while maintaining their site. So it's a good checklist for us. In addition to any provided checklist that a municipality might have provided. So after we've reached out to the municipality or the client, we'll perform our desk review and then create an inspection plan. The reason why we do this, the inspections vary with each site. There might be a more simple site that requires just a pickaxe and a measuring rod. There are other sites where you might have to bring a kayak if you're measuring down in a pond. So the purpose of this inspection plan is to really cut down on the time spent on site, reduce any risk, and to make sure that we are equipped to do our job and gathering all the required information when we're out in the field. And then, so after the desk review is completed, before the inspector goes out to the field, we want to make sure they get in touch with somebody from the office to let them know what they're going to be doing. We take our safety seriously in the office. We want all of our staff to return home every night, even with these small inspections. Sometimes if there's overgrown vegetation, people could fall, and there's no need for people to not come home from work. So moving on from our desk review, we go out into the field. Before we go out into the field, we'll contact the property owner. We'll make sure we're coming at a good time. And then once we get out to the site, we perform our field inspection. But before that, we also check in with the property owner once we're on site. A lot of the time we're in our high visibility vest, we're poking in manholes, we're walking in and around your pond, and we don't want to have the cops called on us. More or less, we don't want to cause any panic from individuals inside. So we like to check in at the beginning. We also want to make sure we have our proper PPE. Again, safety, really important. So we have our high visibility vest, gloves, your safety shoes. Don't want to forget your pickaxe or your measuring rod, so you could actually gather your measurements. And then if there's any protective eyewear, sunscreen, bug spray, your water bottle, just all those extras that can really make your day better, and you won't be suffering out there. So once you're out there, you're taking photos of your BMP, you're logging all your measurements, and then from there you return to the office, compile your notes, and then you create your inspection memo. That memo includes a photo log and a marked up plan set. And then from there, we will distribute the memo out to the client and the municipality if there's no maintenance required. But if there is maintenance required, we connect with the client and also our internal maintenance team to request a quote that we could provide to the client so they don't have to go fishing for quotes. And if they would like to use our maintenance service, we like to just provide that quote when we're providing our memo. And so you learn about the inspection process, but what are we inspecting? I know most of you know we're here for stormwater. So yeah, we're inspecting various stormwater BMPs, including dry and wet ponds, bioswales, permeable or porous pavement areas, rain gardens. We'll also inspect riprap channels that convey stormwater flow from curb cuts. We also looked at catch basins and other stormwater structures, verifying that they're being maintained as previously agreed. We're also checking for general site condition. This is anything from litter, erosion, just general site misuse. That could be illegal discharges. There could be, hazardous material. So we'll call these things out on our inspections. And we also, if we're in the city of Milwaukee, we'll be filling out the illicit discharge detection and elimination form. So we'll just be poking our heads in that final outlet structure and taking a sample if there is some flow during a dry weather period. So back one. So that's what we inspect. These are a handful of our observations. I'll let you read through them all. I'll pick out a few to go into more depth on. So the first one, riprap channels are washed out. So this is at a curb cut at a parking lot, and you can see the accumulation of sediment and the runoff of dirty water. And so this riprap channel has seen better days. It's functioned well, but we need it to be refreshed. So that's something we'll call out in our inspection memo. A lot of times we'll also see sediment and catch basins, and for our repeat clients, they know to now get those vacked out before they call us, so we don't have to come back for an revisit after they've performed their maintenance. Another thing we've run into is structure lids being either paved over or partially paved over. And this photo here, it looks like a regular manhole lid that should be able to, lift off with your pry bar or pickaxe, but the paving process filled up the little void where your pickaxe is supposed to go and the ring around it. So we try and try, and then we can't get it off. And so it's a required maintenance item that has to be removed. And if there's any sediment or debris inside the structure, that also gets removed. Some other items we've seen are paver areas not draining, subgrade failure of paver areas. We also run into wildlife quite a bit. I know we heard from Waukesha County about their friends with the muskrats. We've run into raccoons that have been in storm structures. We often run into animal burrows or dens in the sides of pond side slopes. We also have overgrown vegetation or woody vegetation in our BMPs that we're not looking to have there. And also it's just issues with unlocked gates surrounding ponds that public safety. Again, we're trying to enhance our world. We're not trying to cause devastation. So we want to make sure those BMPs are locked and keeping our kids safe. We also have some, this example here was a storm structure that it's in a riprap cobble area, and just all the leaf and sediment debris that was caked on top of the inlet was preventing it from draining. We had a hard time finding it in the field, but we got it, we uncovered it, but there was quite a bit of sediment that had built up in the structure. Another example we've run into is a BMP has been completely demolished. So we've had examples where our inspectors will travel out of state to perform an inspection on a BMP, and it is not there. And so that's always a head scratcher. And it's, we perform our desk review, we think we're doing everything right, and then it was either never built or somebody filled it in. And those are more complex situations. It's not anything we can't handle, but thought it'd be fun to list here. And then last but not least, a lot of trench drains I've personally inspected are not clean, just caked full of mud, debris, leaves, litter. So just wanted to include that on our list of inspection observations. So from there, we'll be writing our inspection memorandum. This is an example of what one would look like. Up at the top of it, we'll address who it's going to, who's sending it, the date, the subject. We also like to note the weather during the inspection, including the depth of any recent rainfall. This is important for any dry weather inspection that is required. It's good information to include on our reports. And then from there, that top section, we'll move down to the bottom in our inspection observations. We'll list it in a bullet form, going around all the different BMPs, listing all of our observations we've had on the site. And then as we continue into the report, we have our required maintenance section. So this is everything from your pavers are not draining to your cobbles are falling out with your bioswales. And then the recommended maintenance, they're items that aren't enforceable at the moment, but if they are left unattended, they could result in a larger headache or cost as time goes on. And then, so once we get through the inspection memo, we include our photo log, a marked up site plan, and other relevant information like the DNR's guidance for wet pond maintenance. If there's wet pond on site, we like to include as much information to help educate the property owners or maintenance staff. So we've really found the transfer of knowledge has been helpful with keeping these sites clear. And this is just an example of what one of our marked up site plans would look like. And we kind of call everything out on here. So when this goes to the client, they know the areas that we're talking about on the memo. When they send this to the maintenance staff, they also know. And it's we've found real good luck with these markups. And then from there, briefly talk about a few lessons we've learned as we perform these inspections throughout the years. So first note here, the desk review, smoother inspection. This is the case, we'll say 9 out of 10 times, except for that one time where the BMP is destroyed or not built. We've also learned that having records of previous site inspections have allowed for less wasted time internally. So if we've performed maintenance or inspection on a site for a few years, we're able to go back, look at those photos of the BMP and verify, did it get worse from last year, better, and make appropriate recommendations. We've also learned that grates are heavy and you should work with caution. Those rectangular or square grates can make their way into the structure. So, be aware. We also learn clients like to know what's happening on their site, whether that is a maintenance staff, the owner. We've had a lot of the time, there'll be a representative from the company who will walk out with us during these inspections because they want to know why I'm poking around in their ponds. They don't really know what their bioswale is. So they're asking questions and they want to know how they can have their site function better. And that's we've found great success with clients who are asking those kinds of questions. This one's a pretty simple one, but I still being newish to the world of stormwater a few years in. It's really cool to see how these inspections can help prevent disasters from occurring. I know the photos I'm about to show, this one, there was a lot of erosion, pipe separation on a site that was adjacent to a railroad track. So just knowing if, this was left uninspected for a few years, if it was left uninspected for another 5 years, who knows what would have happened. So this was a photo of the previous photo was during the initial inspection, and then after the maintenance occurred, this is what the inlet structure looks like for this pond. So another lesson learned, municipalities and other agencies are generally nice to work with. They're cooperative. They want to help you. They want their systems to be functioning. So if you've got a notice that you haven't really been paying attention to, I'm not saying that's okay, but ain't no time like the present. We want to make sure we're getting on top of these things. We want our systems to function, and our state or national agencies also would like that. So, and then last but not least, we'd like to design with maintenance in mind. We know maintenance staff have struggles maintaining some of our green infrastructure. So we want to make sure that we're providing a large enough access pathway and reasonable enough requests. So maintaining these systems is plausible. So with that, just like to thank you all for attending. Nick and I were talking about stormwater maintenance or stormwater management inspections, maintenance and reporting. My name is Kevin. This is Nick from AQUALIS, and do you have any questions? Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is there any required or recommended licensing or certifications for inspectors?
There are, yeah. So there's a certified erosion control and stormwater inspection program in the state of Wisconsin. So I'm blanking on what the exact acronym is. I think it's like CESW, but it's basically an erosion control and stormwater device inspection certification. So that's a program that exists in Wisconsin and, also exists in other areas of the country as well. So that's one route that can be taken to obtain a certification like that really makes you a highly qualified professional.
If I don't feel like some municipalities would just say like they want a landscaper, and even at that, they don't need a PE license, but they just want landscapers.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Another one back.
How do you inspect for hydraulic maintains the capacity of infiltration?
So we'll follow the ASTM guidance, and I haven't performed that for a bioswale, but for permeable or porous pavements, they have their testing method where if you have your ring and you have to pour your controlled liquid or controlled amount of water in it to get your initial infiltration rate, you have to repeat that test multiple locations depending on your size of your the size of the area, and so that's how you'll get your initial infiltration rate, and you'll compare that to the recommended guidance. And if you're if you exceed that, great, you don't have to clean your pavers at this moment. Or but if you do, there are some where they're just really gunked up, you know, and there's no infiltration there, so they'll perform a sweeping or vacuum cleaning to make that infiltration happen. So.
Done at every.
So it's not, when we perform these inspections, they're generally a visual inspection unless it's required by the municipality to perform an infiltration test. Any
Questions?
Sure.
Can you explain the need/want between an inspection during dry weather and then wet weather?
So there are, like the one form I mentioned, the illicit discharge detection and elimination form, that has to be performed during a dry weather period, either 48 or 72 hours after a rainfall, and the specific municipality will state what that requirement is. But the reason is they want the site to be dry enough so they know that no water should be leaving through the stormwater pipes, and so we'll look at the furthest outfall before the water leaves the site to see if there's any water flowing. And if there is, then we can suspect that there might be an illicit discharge tying into that structure. And then from there, there's a sampling form we fill out and report that to the city, and then they can move forward from that. And then wet weather inspections, they can be helpful just knowing how the water is actually flowing on site, knowing what is, you know, site plans are great. Things don't always get built according to them, and topographic information could be, or site grading could be a little different. So we like performing those inspections if we need to see where the water's flowing.
And just to differentiate between, like Kevin's talking about illicit discharge, there's also illegal discharge. So sort of the difference there is that an illicit discharge is going to be a non-stormwater surface runoff that has entered into the storm sewer system and is now exiting into the general municipal sewer, whereas an illegal discharge is going to be an actual physical hardwired connection into that storm sewer system that was not approved by the municipality. So that, you know, is going to be an actual sewer tie-in that is illegal because it was not approved. So that's sort of just the distinction between some terms that you might hear, illegal and illicit.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thanks.
can you explain how you measure the depths of sediment within a wet pond?
So in a wet pond, so if you are in a kayak, you would bring your measuring rod and you would go out in various locations and stick the rod in, and you would feel the top of the sediment. It's soft-ish. You get the feel once you do enough of these, but then you'll be able to measure the depth at the top of the water to the top of the sediment, and then you'd consult with the construction plans to know, or the design standards to know if that's acceptable, and if not, then we would require maintenance be done on that. And then there's also examples of people performing these if the pond is frozen over. It's a little easier. You don't need to bring a kayak out there. You're just going to cut through the ice, and then you can measure down from there to try to get another reading.
Mm-hmm. And that's usually the most cost-effective route that we find. So we will try to do more of a physical measure down like that. And some basins actually have like a pretty much a permanent pool level marker on them, so you can sort of gauge where that water level is in comparison to what the permanent pool should be. But you can also go all the way to like a bathymetric survey, which is going to use surveying equipment to actually see down, you know, into that water and gauge how deep that sediment is below the depth of the surface of the water. So that's you know, if we're not able to access the pond for whatever reason, or we want maybe more accurate data, we can use actual equipment to perform a bathymetric survey and get some, you know, more of a spatial layout to that surface of sediment.
Any other
Anything else,
questions?
Charlie? Yeah.
Do you run into any BMPs holding water due to backed up outfalls, and how does that affect your inspection?
So I have not, but if I was to run into that situation, I would note it. You know, take our photos and then consult the site plans and know try to understand where there might be an issue before I just, you know, in a memo say, this is what we noted. We try to put our investigation hat on to understand the why and the what's, and so we could report that information.
And if our best determination is that it is, you know, the backup is due to a pipe blockage, and we can, you know, say that with confidence, then if it's part of an actual recertification program, we would need that to be maintained before we're going to provide that recertification. If it's just an inspection and maintenance, you know, reporting program, we're going to call out that that's an item of maintenance that needs to be completed. And if it's due to blockage in the pipe, then we would use our jet vac services to get in there and clean out whatever the blockage is. So that way we can recertify if needed, or the property owner's in better shape moving forward. So that's kind of how we would address a situation like that, through our inspection and maintenance, and then follow up with the report.
Okay. Any other questions?
One
Yeah.
more.
So what about the record keeping process? Still pretty manual? I saw a lot of old school, you know, forms up there. Are you still checking out things manually, or is there apps and things?
So you'll be hearing from our next presenters about some tools we've been using in office. So we do have asset management software that we use to keep all these things in their buckets to really help streamline and just keep everything where they need to be so it's easily accessible. But we'll save that for the next gang.
Yeah, so great question. I mean, that's definitely the way, you know, that the world is moving, to try to automate, you know, processes where we can and make things more efficient. So that's, yeah, we, you know, as a company nationwide are using tools to manage our clients' assets. And we're also looking at ways to improve those tools that we're using as technology grows. All right, I think that's probably it for us.
Yeah, thanks everyone.